Hi, I'm Brad Sarin, Superintendent of the Sun Prairie Area School District, here with the TLE team to submit to the board and the community Operational Expectation 11, Instructional Programming as compliant. Would you advance the slide, please? Operational Expectation 11 is an operational expectation that includes the requirement that the superintendent maintain a program of instruction that offers a broad range of relevant, engaging, and innovative opportunities and learning experiences in and out of the classroom that help students develop to their full academic and social potential and prepare them for a life in a global society and a global economy. We're submitting this to the Board of Education with 11 of 11 indicators as compliant, each with artifacts of compliance. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Steph and her team to explain that. Steph?
Thanks, Brad. So as Brad said, we're going to be talking about instructional programming. The previous video you watched was about the learning environment, and this really focuses on the what we teach kids and the programs that we offer. The themes you'll see within OE-11 are around alignment and rigor, ensuring that we have student engagement and diversity or representation of diversity in our curriculum, instruction, and materials, that we understand the different ways to assess students and support them, that we're trying to infuse innovation and equitable practices throughout all learning spaces. We want to engage with parents and caregivers. We want to ensure that our kids are using and having access to technology, and that we're using scheduling tools and ways of living out our school schedule wisely to maximize the amount of time we have with students to ensure the greatest student outcomes possible. So similar to the OE-10 presentation, there are 3 TLE directors on with me, Rick, Sarah, and Kurt, and each of them will talk about each of the components of OE-11 at a very high level, give a brief explanation of some of the artifacts, 1 or 2 of the artifacts, and we'll work our way through that. And then in the end, I will finalize with some of the themes we have from looking back and the themes we're going to carry forward into our work into the 24-25 school year. So with that, we're going to get started with 11.1, which is standards alignment.
Okay, so 11.1 standards alignment is really talking about do we have as a system, do we have the tools and the processes to ensure that we're providing rigorous and challenging learning experiences that are deep across all subjects? And so linked here are several artifacts of those tools and processes that we use in order to ensure that we're meeting this part of the OE. And so you can see here steering committee, training and process, the instructional framework, and the declaration of the academic standards that is shared and reaffirmed every year. Pictured here is the 4K through 5 elementary steering committee for mathematics. And this past year in 23-24, this work group was tasked with identifying the essential standards for mathematics to make sure that we're providing appropriate on grade level rigor in math, and then to map those and align those to make sure that there's coherence and alignment across multiple grade levels. On the next slide, 11.2 is talking about relevance and engagement. And again, I know I'm going quickly through these slides. I encourage you to, again, pause and click on the links if you'd like to dig into the tools or processes that are referred to in these slides. So for relevance and engagement, we're really talking about, we know that learning matters to students when the students find it useful and interesting, right? And so do we have the tools and processes to make sure that, that we're doing that? And so pictured here, first is the instructional framework, which places a major emphasis on providing a relevant and engaging learning experience, and describes what adult behaviors on the part of educators lead to that relevance and engagement. And then also pictured here is a parent-caregiver experience note catcher. And so this is a reference to the different care holder voice interviews and the collection of multiple perspectives from students, educators, and parents, caregivers, to make sure that the learning experience, that we have a process to gather information and feedback about the learning experience that we're providing in order to modify it, to make it more relevant and engaging. 11.3 is talking about cultural responsiveness. Again, here we're talking about, learning is meaningful when students drive the content based on their own backgrounds and interests, their own culture, their own experiences. And so we have processes and tools in Sun Prairie to make sure that what we're delivering is increasingly culturally responsive. Pictured here is a student group that was engaged in providing feedback as we developed the Sun Prairie instructional framework. Students were taught about the instructional framework, and then we went back and actually talked to them about, here's what you told us you'd like school to be like. Here's the instructional framework and the adult behaviors that we believe will lead to that type of learning experience. And then we asked them for feedback in the development of the instructional framework. So that's one of the artifacts linked here, the instructional framework. Again, the 6-year curriculum renewal and design process has components that emphasize cultural responsiveness, as well as assessing bias in standards and curricular materials, something we've been deeply involved in the English language arts curriculum development process as well. 11.4 is about diverse assessment methods. So a wide variety of artifacts linked here, right? The message here is diverse assessments measure student proficiency and track progress toward meeting the standards, right? So we have a process for unpacking the standards. We have a real focus on the professional learning teams following a process as articulated by solution tree, learning by doing, which is pictured here. This is one of our adopted resources aligned to the instructional framework. And it's a playbook that tells all educators in the system kind of how to go about using the standards, developing common formative assessments, and then monitoring student growth toward those assessments. This work isn't just in academic areas, it's also in social and emotional learning as well. And then our district provides guidance and support to educators as they navigate the data that they're gathering in order to make impactful instructional decisions. So you have the database decision-making guide as well. And then we have data playbooks that really clearly show the data for all of our students and all of the subgroups of students. So I encourage you to pause and dig into these resources. Sarah?
Thanks, Rick. Hello, I'm Sarah Chaya-Clarity, our Director of Secondary for Teaching, Learning, and Equity, here to share more about 11.5, multi-level supports. Our board holds the expectation that we are establishing and monitoring proactive and responsive support systems in both academic areas as well as that behavioral, social, emotional area. And you can see by this diamond to the right here that exemplifies all ends of the services that we provide. Our systematic and continuous delivery of instructional activities are designed to ensure that students are moving to that next developmental level, moving towards core, which would be the grade level instruction, grade level access, and or extending beyond core through both intensive and supplemental services. And there are multiple exemplars here of the work products that we have in place to ensure that we are delivering on that expectation. Some of the items include our equitable multi-level systems of support, or sometimes we've referred to it as an EMLSS. EMLSS one pager, which is designed to take all of this complex systems and put it into a singular document, professional learning plans, our positive behavior supports, tiered fidelity inventory, literacy, instructional routines, and the like. So just as Rick said, please do pause and take some time to go into those evidence sources and see how that intersects with our multi-level support system. Moving on to 11.6, equity and opportunity. Our board's expectation that we are prioritizing the disruption of systems and structures that foster inequities so that we are closing the opportunity gap for historically marginalized students. We know that it is our job to ensure our educators are gaining an awareness of the barriers that currently exist, that we're using data to identify and analyze those barriers, and then we're challenging those barriers in order to disrupt inequities in our programs, our curriculum, our practices, and our policies. Some of the ways that we do this, the first link there is our pupil non-discrimination self-evaluation, which was a very robust self-evaluation we conducted last school year. It's a full report on all of the areas of curricular, social, emotional programming and practices. We have our theories of action and problem of practices that each site holds, our professional learning around courageous conversations about race, and then each building's individual 100-day plans, site leadership. Again, these are systems and structures we have in place to ensure we're disrupting inequity. This photo is an example of a partnership that we have that helps support students in addition to classroom time through a Saturday program. Moving on to 11.7, program evaluation. The board's expectation that we are regularly evaluating and modifying instructional programs for effectiveness while encouraging innovative practices and knowing that those are necessary to enhance learning outcomes are done through our self-study of our programming, which includes our achievement data. We involve student voice and gain student voice through interviews, and then look at all other data that we have accessible and apply that to our various content areas, mostly in the years 1 through 3 of our curriculum renewal and design plan. And this is a photo of the elementary team doing some learning and some on-site visits when they were undergoing their curricular evaluation and adoption process as part of the year 3 work. Moving on to 11.8, transparency and accountability. The expectation that we're providing a process for reviewing instructional materials upon any formal request from parents or caregivers or district residents to ensure that we have transparency and accountability in our work. And so we have these processes here, both policy KLB and procedure KLBR, as well as curriculum review policy IFD, which are a way for those complaints to be handled. The photograph here exemplifies the work that happened with CKLA and how there has been extensive revision due to concerns that came forward from our community with that curriculum. Kurt.
Thanks, Dr. Chiaclardi. I'm Dr. Kurt Mold, Director of Digital Media Innovation and Strategy, with an update on compliance in item 11.9, technology access. Adequate access refers to the availability of district-provided technology to research, collaborate, and complete tasks across multiple learning disciplines. All of our students of all abilities have access to the latest learning technology at no initial cost to students or their caregivers. Beyond simply providing tech tools, we also teach students appropriate, safe, and ethical use of technology. Every student is taught about digital citizenship, which provides students the skills and knowledge to safely and effectively use the internet and other digital technology tools, especially to participate in social and civic activities. The links to the relevant artifacts reflecting this work are included in this slide. Dr. Leonard?
Thanks, Kurt. The last component is effective scheduling. And this is where we as the district are ensuring that we're using the time we have to the greatest extent possible to meet students' needs. This is a cross-cabinet project that we work on every year. Dr. Sadler does an amazing job of bringing our work group together to work through how we structure our calendar each year. Nick and I go through the hours and minutes of instruction that are required by DPI to make sure we're meeting state standards. And then we provide scheduling guidance in different ways across the levels. At elementary, we are as specific as saying, here is the approximate amount of time you need to be doing for each subject area and how that time is aligned. That's really important across the elementary schools to ensure that regardless of school you attend, you have equal access to be able to learn in the different subject areas so that all kids are experiencing a guaranteed, viable, and similar curriculum across the sites. At middle and high school, we have scheduling guidance in how the courses are scheduled, specifically at middle school, thinking about the amount of time spent in core and elective and support. At the high school, as you know, a few years ago, we shifted to block scheduling to allow larger chunks of time for learning to occur and to allow people to dig more deeply into the work that they're doing. So those are the different ways that we take the time that we have allocated with our students and ensure we're using it to maximize the outcomes for their student learning. And the last area that we monitor in OE-11 is a balanced enrollment. This is guided by policy JCR. The school board is the only group that can make changes to attendance areas and boundaries. That is something we review regularly. We do our long-term enrollment projections to do the best we can to anticipate enrollment growth and patterns of enrollment that are shifting across the system so that we can be proactive and prepared to accommodate students in the schools that are their attendance area boundaries. We're happy to say that this year we are seeing pre-pandemic growth again in our student enrollment, and we're excited to welcome even more learners into the Sun Prairie Area School District. As Brad shared with you at the beginning of the video, on behalf of the superintendent, the Teaching, Learning, and Equity team is recommending a rating of in compliance on OE-11. Of the 11 expectations that are monitored, all 11 are something that we're deeming as in compliance and have artifacts attached to demonstrate how we believe we're monitoring or showing compliance in those areas. The last time we presented OE-10 and OE-11 to the school board was in September of 2022, which was in reflection of the 21-22 school year. So as you look at these next steps, these were next steps identified in 22 in anticipation of the 2022-23 school year and the 2023-24 school year. So when we look back at what we said was important at the end of 2022, at elementary, our focus really was around ensuring consistency across our elementary sites with how we view and record major and minor behaviors, how we are ensuring that we have proactive and reactive supports for students when they're communicating something to us through their behavior. I'm happy to report that we've made some really nice progress in consistency across all 9 systems in our approach to proactively teaching, in our response, including a shift towards including restorative practices, and how we respond when kids show us they need something differently. At this time, and it seems really interesting to think back to where we were at this time, this was when we were anticipating our secondary reconfiguration. Big shift, big move, big transition, big decision. And so at that time, our focus was really thinking about how will we successfully transition to 3 6-8 middle schools and 3 9-12 high schools with the opening of West High School. I'm happy to report that we had a very successful launch with programming and students and staff as we shifted through that reconfiguration. As we think about the 23-24 school year in reflection and think forward to year 24-25, our work will revolve mostly around English language arts and Spanish language arts. We'll continue our curriculum review and revision of our new elementary materials. That's Amplify CKLA for 4K through 5, Caminos for our dual language immersion programming, which will be in its 2nd year in 24-25. And so we'll have it at 5K in 1st grade. So we'll continue the review and the revision of those materials and begin the implementation of the new materials across all of our elementary schools and 4K sites. At 9-12, our high school staff will engage in continued curriculum review and revision for our high school English language arts offerings. And we're really excited to say that we're going to include student school board reps in our curriculum committees. We've engaged student voice in year 6 through voice interviews about each of the content areas when they come up on the cycle. And after discussion at the school board meeting among the school board members, students, and elected members alike, we are reaching out and have reached out to our student school board members and offered them seats on their curriculum committees as a first step forward to engaging student voice in the actual writing of the curriculum. Math is similar in that we've invited student school board reps to join us there. Our work next year related to math will be doing our curriculum adoption or creation. And we'll need to think through our high school math sequencing, given the fact that we're shifting from Common Core state standards for math to the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards for math. And the arrangement of the standards and pathways is different in the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards than it was in the Common Core. One of the areas that we're going to work on is proactive communication. During the 23-24 school year, we communicated about our ELA adoption, but I under-anticipated and under-communicated about the concerns that arose within the CKLA curriculum and our work to revise them to ensure that they're culturally responsive and meet our school board equity statement. So we will continue to communicate transparently through the website, through board communication with our broader community to regain the confidence of the community around the materials that we have and their impact on student achievement moving forward. We'll also need to ensure we're strategically and proactively communicating around curriculum revisions related to math. As I said before, we are going to be shifting our trajectory and need to ensure that we're bringing our community and school board along with a clear understanding of our work and how we're going to support our students through it. Finally, we'll go back to the pupil non-discrimination report, which was completed in 23-24, and take care of a handful of items that arose in that review, mostly some policy updates, but we'll take care of those things as we move through the 24-25 school year. So we thank you again for taking the time to review our screencast and to click into the different links that are available so that you can see the artifacts that we have. We look forward to engaging in dialogue with you at the school board meeting. And if you have any specific questions ahead of time, please feel free to send them to me so that we're well prepared to answer your specific questions. Thank you.